Hello, my name is Tabs and welcome to episode 105 of the Grove Podcast. Now, I hope you're all doing very well and enjoying all the other sports that exist when football is not front and centre. And no, the Club World Cup does not count. I myself have been spending many an hour listening to Test Match Specials, so that's my sport of choice over the summer. And what a day it was today! What a fantastic chasing down 371 to beat India at Headingley today. So that was pretty cool having that on in the background whilst working. And so it's a great British institution, and I urge anyone just to get listening to Aggers and the rest. And plus the analysis is so good, and something that the football punditry could learn a thing or two from in terms of the way they analyse the cricket and get into the details. It's really good. And then I think I'm going to be looking forward to the Tour de France coming up soon and Wimbledon. So that's my lot on the summer and helps me forget about all the bloody transfer rumours and all that shit. So there we go. So anyway, moving along. In today's episode, we're going to take a look at the 25-26 fixtures that were released last week. We're going to do some transfer chat, and we've also asked for some listener questions. And to help me go through all this is Jamie. How's you doing? And what does your summer of sport look like? I'm assuming the Lions rugby tour down under is high on your agenda.
Massively, yeah. Can't bloody wait for it. Unfortunately, the missus has stuff lined up for the first two tests, and I am, desperately trying to work out how I can at least get the mornings free for it. But they're probably going to be booze free, which is a bit unfortunate. But certainly by the third one, that's going to be absolute manna from the gods. And I always enjoy the midweeks whilst working. That's an absolute touch, to be honest.
And so they played Argentina. Was that just like a warm up game en route to Argentina, en route to Australia?
Yeah. So there's 3 tests versus Australia, and then ultimately there's a bunch of warm up games for the actual main event. So they also play all the kind of club sides out of Australia and stuff as well, which is normally an absolute hammering for one side. But yeah, it's a good bit of fun.
Yeah, I was reading the other day that actually the Australians, unsurprisingly, weren't playing fair. That they should be releasing the test players for the club games to make them more competitive for everyone involved, even for watching and stuff like that. So they may be having to force to release some of their better players. But you can understand why they wouldn't want to. But
they typically don't. That's normally, to be honest. To be fair, the national team's sort of warming up and especially because Australia tends to be the one that the Lions win. To be completely frank, as well, the Kiwis and the Springboks are both teams that I wouldn't back the Lions to beat. Well, I might back them against the Kiwis, but I wouldn't back them against the Springboks at the moment. Okay. But the Aussies on the other end are. I personally would put my money on a whitewash this time.
Oh, really?
The Aussies are improved even at the moment, but they're nowhere near competitive with the Lions, I don't think. So, yeah.
Oh, well, enjoy. Have you ever been on? Have you ever considered going on a Lions tour, or is that your bag? Or
it will happen one day. It will happen one day for sure. I've already been to Japan with Scotland, and that was pretty special. But I will definitely get on one of them. But they are fairly pricey. Let's take it that way. You're talking about my Arsenal allowance for 2 seasons going on one trip. So
and twice that. It's basically half the amount of money on travel, the other half on drinking, and then of course you're going to have to buy yourself a pair of brown brogues and some jeans. So to fit in.
No, mate. I only go and watch rugby in kilts. That's the way it works, mate.
Okay, fair enough. Oh no, of course.
It's the only outfit. It's the only outfit that works.
No, it's fine. I was thinking of Twickenham. No, you're absolutely right. You're fine there. I think I've seen. I used to live in New Zealand, and I think I've seen a Lions game in Wellington, but I can't be sure because I've seen various test matches and I just couldn't remember if it was England or Bledisloe Cup or a Lions game, so I don't know. But yeah, it was always a big deal, Southern Hemisphere, when the Lions.
I think you might have seen a Lions game. Honestly, that's like I think I might have been to the World Cup final at some point, but I'm not really that sure. It might be the Carling Cup. I don't know. Something was going on.
It's rugby. Come on. We had a good time, whatever it was. Anyway, so there you go. Anyway, I'm sure the listeners weren't here to listen about rugby as much as we like other sports. And look, before we get started with the main content of the show, a small request for your support. I mean, if you could spare a couple of minutes to go onto your podcast app and give us a 5-star rating, please, irrespective of whether you think it's deserved. It just helps with the various algorithms, and we'd really appreciate it. Now you can pause now, a couple of minutes, go and rate, and then you come back and listen to the rest. So anyway, quick ask, and appreciate if you can do that. So first up, fixtures 25-26, and in a shock move by the FA, Arsenal are again being forced to play every team in the Premier League, home and away, in a bid to win the title. So as much as we'd like to be drawn against Sunderland every week, the fixture computer was not playing ball. So Jamie, any thoughts on the fixtures? Just initial, anything that stand out? In terms of how it's panned out, how we might approach it.
Well, it's a bit of a tough old first 7 or 8 games, isn't it? I kind of feel like you might as well get these out of the way, to be honest. I mean, I kind of felt that last season as well, when it felt like we had a pretty tough opening couple of months of the season. And similarly as well, you've got to play them all at some point. And to be honest, coming off the back of summer where we should have full availability, subject to opening day red cards, then, I kind of feel like that might not be the worst time, especially in a summer where, for a couple of those sides, actually they've not had as good a rest as they might have wanted to have with the Club World Cup, whereas we've had, full rest. I personally think it's that people are going to find something to be aggravated about in some way. I would rather these fixtures be now than if you look at them being in those super congested sort of November, December period for me. I hate that period with a passion. And it feels like we struggle, other teams struggle, everybody seems to have a dip apart from whoever it is that's going to win the league during that particular period. It feels like, we get some of the tough fixtures out of the way. We kind of know we're staying quite quickly in the season. And you just have to hope that we don't feel like we're adrift from anybody by the end of those tough fixtures. And if on the other hand we're out in front, well then great, easy streak from there.
Well, you'd hope so. But I mean, you say it's a tough start. I think we've got opening 2 games are relatively easy. I mean, we're playing a lower mid-table club, who just finished 15th last season. If you take the name and the badge away, if you're saying you're playing Wolves or something like that, opening game of the season, you're not worried. And Leeds at home, so to get things started before we get to Anfield. So, and maybe you're right, playing these teams early. We can start, even if bar one, without any transfers, we could go to the first 2 games because we know our team. It is so settled. All we're doing is supplementing it, building it, making it better. We could go to those first 2 games, with the squad that we have now, having been fully rested over the summer, and easily win. I don't think that we need to have the transfers in to do that. That's a separate point, by the way. That's not saying I don't think we should wait. I'm just saying, whereas we're playing Liverpool, who are making a number of changes. Man United are making a number of changes. City are making a number of changes. How long are they going to take to get settled? Whereas, we've got a very settled side, and Zubimendi will be there. So, the others have got on we're bidding in to do. So,
it's the proximity as much as anything, isn't it, of that particular little run, that Liverpool, Forest, City, Newcastle. That's the one, I think, isn't it? It's that you've got a run of 4 in the first 6 that are, 4 of your tougher fixtures based on last season's performances, right? That's what 4 of the top 7 from last season. Did Forest end up 7th? I think.
They did.
They did. But it's no. But well, you never know. But yeah, I mean, certainly you've got some really tough fixtures within that little run there. I think in any very, very close proximity, and at the same time as those first 2 weeks of the Champions League. So. Yeah. And you might get lucky on the Champions League front as well. Let's face it, we are, the league format as it is now. I don't know. Is there any way to really kind of get a feel for what kind of seedings those teams are going to be, or is it pretty much just random?
No, well, we're going to be second pot. I mean, but the thing is, it doesn't matter. I think everyone plays, 2 2 1s, 2 2s, 2 3s, and 2 4s, or whatever it is. So it's it is what it is. I don't think there's too much. I mean, you could get lucky. I mean, I think it's not quite a free hit, but I don't think the pressure is on so much. You don't have anything surrounding the expectations are high, but you haven't got that league status, that other stuff around it. So I think you can go into these games with a fresh mind. All the players should be fresh. Actually playing City, who are playing in the Club World Cup. How are they going to be reacting as a result of that? Remember, they don't want to play us either. They're thinking, shit, we got to play Arsenal. And again, these top 6 teams, 17, we haven't lost to anyone for the last 2 years now, or whatever it is. So I think the pressure will be off. I know all points count the same, no matter what in the season, but it does feel like they're less important at the beginning than towards the end, because you can see the consequences of it. So, I mean, the biggest thing for me is that if we progress in things like the league and FA Cups, we would be playing midweek from August 30th through to April 18th, except for Christmas Eve and the international break, which is nuts.
This is modern football, though, isn't it? And this is we've talked about it before. We both feel there's too much of it, right?
Yeah, and this is why it's important to have the squad. We're going to need a bigger core squad and a fitter core squad to get through that. I mean, luckily we don't have AFCON to worry about, which is in December and January. So that's unless we make certain signings, but we shouldn't have. That shouldn't be a major issue for us. And I think we're okay. You had mentioned Champions League. It's only week 1 and week 5, so we've got City after week 1, and then around week 5 we've got Tottenham and Chelsea. But they've both got Champions League as well. All those clubs have got Champions League, so then it depends on the draw and if you're home and away. But at least they'll be contending with that. And then possibly
how on earth are Tottenham? Just it's the first time I've really heard that said in that context of well, they've got it as well. How on earth have they got it? Sorry, it's just
because they're champions of Europe. Remember,
thinking in 2 months later,
the champions of Europe that we can't sing. So there we go. That's why they're there. And then around the Champions League playoffs, hopefully we avoid that, and quarters. There are also some big games, but again, it's Spuds, Chelsea, and City around those matches. So again, everyone's in a similar boat. So even though we've got a tough start, our finish, if we're still in it, May looks lovely. You'd hope, given that you'd have in May you have, Fulham, West Ham, Burnley, Crystal Palace. If you need 4 games to win the league, you couldn't ask for much better than that, really, could you?
This is the thing, isn't it? It you get that little bit of breathing room the other side of things, don't you? Yeah. I mean, similarly as well, you've also got those games on during the time that if we progress to the last 4 of the Champions League again, then you've got some games there that you might feel that you can rest a couple of key players in. If we've progressed towards the end of the FA Cup, etc., it's nice to have, right? So even if you're not necessarily looking for those games to win the league, having already sewn it up weeks in advance, then it comes with its benefits that you've got the potential to rest a few folks in some of those games, I think.
Well, look, Champions League round of 16, you got Brighton and Everton and Wolves around the 2 legs, and then the quarterfinals you've got Bournemouth and Man City, and that's after. And there's also an international break. You got FA Cup quarters, and then the semi-finals of the Champions League. Well, you've either got FA Cup semi-final, or you've got Newcastle, Fulham, and West Ham. So
I'll tell you what I don't like, though. Can I tell you what I really, really do not like in this fixture list? Is that it's not the start, it's not the end, it's not. It is the Christmas to New Year period, right? So you got Brighton. It's just such a us set of fixtures, right? It is. We're at home to Brighton, which luckily we've generally been better off at home to Brighton than away. So thank God it's not away. Otherwise, it genuinely would be your nightmare run. But we have got to visit the South Coast with Bournemouth. We have got Villa. And we have also got then Liverpool on the 7th as well.
Yeah,
and
Liverpool on the back end of it. Yeah,
it's always that period of time where I don't like us. We've never. I don't remember us having a good period at the tail end of December, start of January, as far as I can remember. To be completely frank, and those games in particular, it's just those, Brighton, bloody Bournemouth, and Villa. It just those games.
Brighton. I don't know. Are they going to be impacted by AFCON? And then look, we're all going to be Egypt fans because the AFCON quarterfinals is on the 10th of January. So we're all Egypt fans. And
I'm a fan of aging mainly, to be honest. That's my main. That's what I'm mainly a fan of, mate. I'm a fan of old Mr. Time.
Yeah, well, there's that as well. But so look, it could work out. But
it could have. Bournemouth have just lost 3 of their defenders.
Yeah, exactly.
I know it's just one of those things where everything. A lot of it is gut feel at the moment. You don't know what a team is really like until you step into the season. You don't know how the new signings are going to gel. We don't even have an idea of who the new signings are for most of these teams at the moment. We don't know what will be the starting 11 for most of these sides. But it's just one of those gut reactions when you look at a little bit of a period of time and you go, I fucking hate when we play all of those teams, and I don't like it being that time of year. The saving grace being there's a massive home bias. We've actually got 3 of those 4 games at home, which might be a really nice thing, actually. To be honest,
expensive time over Christmas for tickets, but
it's not a nice thing for me because I'm always bloody pillar to post. We're going between a million family members and shit. So I probably won't get to go any of them, but. I'll have. Hopefully, it'll be a good TV watch those games.
Yeah, I'm sort of looking at it. I'm quite excited. It's one of these things like I'm happy having a break from football, but sort of looking at it. Oh yeah. Just seeing how the season will pan out. Yeah, could be very interesting again. And people look at these teams. Actually, no, that's easy. Yeah, they're okay. Yeah, I'm not that fearful at the moment. I'm sort of quite excited, quite hopeful. So let's see. Anyway, it is what it is. As I said, everyone's got to play each other twice, home and away. Who knows what's going to happen? And maybe some of this the way the fixtures have panned out for us in certain competitions. It works. It works in our favour. So let's see. Okay, so and that all kicks off. When's the first game of the season? What day is it? Look at here. We'll be on the Sunday, so it'll be the 17th of August. There we go. The 4:30 game on Sky. Yeah, cool. There we go. Man United 3 points, and actually, again, I think it'll be a good time for us to play them. No big build up in terms of league position. It's just go in, fully fit squad. Let's do them for a change. Right. So before we get there. Now, it's only been 20 days or so since the window has actually been open, even though people may think it's been like months. And you know what? In recent times, the earliest we've made a big signing has been around end of June, beginning of July. If you take Havertz and Jesus in recent years, we haven't done much business or big business in June. So, I don't know. Do you find the constant cycle of non-updates, non-news feeds the impatience and the angst of fans? Did you prefer it when we just didn't know anything, and it just feels like there's no shocks and people are just getting impatient, and then when we do get the signing, bored, move on, what next? How do you connect with this? Yeah.
It does result in a slightly anticlimactic signing, doesn't it? I suppose maybe you get a sense of anticipation with some of them, whatever. But certainly with Gyökeres or Sesko, it's kind of 12 months in the making, isn't it? So it feels like whenever they do, when Zubimendi is he? Have I actually seen a genuine photo of Zubimendi in an Arsenal shirt yet? I haven't, have I? But they're getting. Seems like people are refining the AI so much. I really have convinced myself that I have at this point. But I also just I don't really give a shit. Do you know what I mean? He's clearly coming in. It feels like it's about as done as a done thing. We've heard it won't happen till July. Sesko and Gyökeres, it seems like one of them will sign. It's pretty clear. And all of that means the actual signing means very little to me. The kind of signing that I'd really love to see and that I really miss, I think you're absolutely right, are those. It's the Alexis Sanchez, right? It's the out of nowhere. It's the Mesut Ozil on deadline day, which is still, I don't think there's a signing that's ever excited me as much as that one. It's those ones that are completely and utterly, out of nowhere and feel like they're a bit crazy. I also will say as well, I miss the strong punts as well. Going, I really miss these days with the fact that we know about the players so often. So even the guys that we're not supposed to know about, you end up spending too much time finding out about, right? So you don't.
There are no surprises. There are no secrets out there.
You don't get a Lewis.
Everyone's got stats. Yeah.
You don't get a Lewis Bowen-Morty anymore, do you? Where you just see him turn up on day. Where you see him turn up on day one, and you're like, Christ Almighty! If this lad can learn to control the ball, he's gonna be fucking amazing. You just really do miss those sort of wildcard stuff. And I will admit I do feel it's somewhat anticlimactic. But hopefully there will be a surprise at some stage in the window. I mean, we think if we're getting Kepa, Zubi, and one of the 2 9s, then I would expect maybe if we were to see one more come in, then that guy is a guy that probably hasn't been mentioned.
Yeah, maybe. I keep referring back to when I found out Ian Wright was joining Arsenal. I know we're going back many a year, but it was in the newspaper. So it was just a small article saying Arsenal have signed Ian Wright for, I think it was 7.5 million at the time, or something like that. And it's like
7.5 million. Are you joking, mate?
No, maybe not that. No, was it? No, 750,000. It might have been. So
it was 2.75. I think it was. It was certainly in that region. It was 7.5 million with Dennis Bergkamp, mate. That was
okay. Sorry. That was a recent anniversary as well. Sorry. Anyway, what it was, I just found I was at university, had the newspaper, and it was just literally an article in the newspaper, and that was the first time I found out. I was like, oh wow, we signed Ian Wright, and it's like, yeah, it's just everything's a saga now, and everything. It's just this constant cycle of nothingness, and the void needs to be filled by these so-called ITKs who are actually HNFIs, so have no fucking idea, and they just have to keep trying to be relevant and just feed it, and that feeds the impatient. And you're right, anticlimactic is the right word. It's
this is where rumours were more fun before, though, right? Because you had to wait for them because they were in those back pages, or you'd have your rumours columns and whatever. And just seeing the Arsenal there, you were like, oh, who's that? This, and it's always some French bloke during the late 90s, right? Or during George Graham era, it's always some geezer who plays in South London somewhere because he just picked up anyone who was decent in South London for a long period of time, didn't he? It was like Jimmy Carter and Eddie McGoldrick and Ian Wright himself and all that. But like it feels like that whole thing. And do you remember Club Call? Like literally call up and spend about £3 a minute and they drag it all out. So it's all like, Paul Shaw's got a new contract. No, I don't want to hear about that. Tell me about the £10 million signing. Come on. And then there was and then the other way was teletext. That was it, right? And it's not to be like 2 old men shouting at the clouds, but I think it's just more the amount of filtering of information. There's no filter now. There's a need to constantly update. There is a saturation, and it's just sort of all over the place. And it somewhat ruins the sport or the transfer, window. And I guess, and even back then, there was no transfer window, right? Or at least there was just a transfer deadline day in March, which was more fun by my reckoning as well, because you had left field stuff happening in the middle of the season.
It just creates a sense of like, oh, it feels like we're not doing anything because someone's reporting we're not doing anything. They think, oh, we're not doing anything. So much happens behind the scenes. Transfers are not easy. They take time. Big signings are not easy. They take a lot of time, take a lot of effort. There's a load of things involved, and it's just it just feeds into it, and then there's head loss, and then everyone gets criticised, and it just brings a spiral of negativity that I just think is unnecessary. Like look, we obviously want to see ourselves do business. It's only been 20 days or so that it's been open. That's 3 weeks. Geez, and the only clubs that have done business have had to out of necessity because of the Club World Cup. So and again, some others have moved. Yeah, whatever. And so this brings us on to the first question from Nigel Gibbons, Gunner Gibbo 75, who he said basically, what are your thoughts on Andrea Berta? Do you think we will have the players targeted in and signed for the start of the season, or will it be a summer of wait till right to the end of the window with the tough start to the season? Hopefully these players will be on soon. So what do you think Berta's MO is?
Apparently, so the thing that I keep hearing, I don't know masses about the matter. I kind of did the usual that most people do, and had a look at the CV and then had a read of the Athletic article and then lamented the fact that I'm reading about a geezer that, years before you'd have never got anywhere near. And then, the one thing that I did keep kind of hearing about him is that he does like having this, he'll negotiate with multiple different players for a single position until the point at which they've decided that's the deal that we want, and it keeps everybody a bit active and so on. And the idea is to kind of keep pressure on the selling teams, etc. Fine. Doesn't make for the most interesting window, does it? Because it actually just prolongs the entire thing. But in terms of whether that's effective or not, we'll judge it on what comes in at the end of this summer for me, because I don't know enough about the geezer's past to really be able to say for sure. I don't know what other options he passed up on when he was making some of those signings in his past where he's been widely celebrated at particularly given times. For me, it's a bit of I'm looking forward to judging the geezer now that it is one of these positions where in a team setup where we do somehow have some kind of idea of some strong opinions on how well the guy does his job. I won't form that necessarily until I see what we've got. I think on I was going to say 1st of September, but whenever the window closes these days.
30th of August, the day before the Liverpool game.
Which is a really boring answer, but I mean, yeah.
It
looks like what he's doing is playing out that MO that he's always that has been taught up, but I don't know well enough to say more.
Well, at least it's a bit of a break from what we had in the past, where we'd put all our eggs into one basket, be chasing one guy. It'll be Edu like schmoozing one guy and all the rest of it, and that feels a bit limiting. I mean, we have pivoted, and that's fine, but you're right. I think he does seem to be many irons in the fire sort of type of thing, and I think that's smart. I think that's a good way to do things. Yes, you have your preferences, but you can't always get your preferences, so you need to have good available backups, options as well to pivot if you need to, or play people off each other. Clubs get played by the other guys, so we have to play them as well. So basically this is his first time at the club. He'll want to prove himself. He'll want to do the right thing. The one thing that we just do not know is what's he playing with, how much is he restricted. So is he and with it, because if he was free and easy, so if he's a Man City or a Chelsea, that's a very different story to right. This is your budget. You need to maximize that budget, and therefore you do have to be smart. You do have to sort of play out a bit. See, you can't just splurge it all, too soon, because where does that leave you, sort of thing. So yeah, that's hard. So you're right. I think he can only be judged by the end of the window, because then we'll know what he's done. But even then, what is down to him versus what the club are allowing him to do. So it's. But I think just from a practical perspective, we need to get them in as many. I would say we need to have the keeper, the midfielder, and the forward on the tour to, was it Hong Kong and Singapore or wherever it is. That they need to be there at a bare minimum. We go into the season with those three primary targets there, and I think that the rest can take a bit, take a bit longer, draw them out a bit, try and maybe look for a market opportunity. But those three have to be there for me from pre-season, not even day one. They need to go into the game, because you don't want to be turning up August 30th. Oh, then we need to settle them in, and so basically we don't have our full team ready, available till October. So So with that in mind, what is your? So we're moving on to the unfortunately boring Sesko Gyökeres debate to a certain extent. This is from Owen, our friend Owen, from the group chat. What is your personal deadline before getting the pitchforks out over the striker signing? Start of the season, pre-season, month end, or has Berta got 24 hours or else?
I wish that we had the. I'm sure we must. If we got a Barnet game, right? I want to see when the Barnet game is, right? Because this is going to determine it, mate. I'm okay. Absolutely telling you. I don't think we've got them. We haven't got.
No, we've got someone else. I've seen tickets. They say, ticket Boreham Wood. No, we might be playing Boreham Wood.
I mean, there's that. No, but always, Boreham Wood was the other one as well, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, Boreham Wood and Barnet. They were the ones that we'd always be playing as the local games, wasn't it? Yeah, I mean, I think it has to be at the point at which any of the meaningful friendlies are lined up. You want him to have a bit of a pre-season, right? You need him to start developing relationships with players, I should expect. So, yeah, I suppose if we're talking the Premier League starting mid-August, then we're talking mid-July. So you're expecting something in the next three weeks. There is a question of how effective my personal deadline necessarily is, but certainly it's the point at which I become really disheartened. And I start to think, oh, crap, are we leaving ourselves too much to do? Having said that, there's probably a huge caveat there as well, that if we've got Zuba, Zubi and Kepa as an absolute minimum, and then we've maybe added something else and let our eyes wander onto, one of those absolute superstar signings like a Rodrigo or a Gordon, which are the two that get mentioned that are the real imagination capturers, then I think I would absolutely be forgiving and not mind one little bit. And that's the big caveat there. Now, I really am not convinced any of those are going to happen, but were they to, oh yeah, that pushes it right out then. Balls to it. I can wait till the 30th of August for a striker.
Okay, interesting. For me, look, I'm not a pitchforks kind of guy, but to play Owen's game, I want them on the plane to Hong Kong. That's when they should be there, getting with the club, getting with the team members out there playing. Because I think our first game, I think it's Man United or Tottenham. Don't know who it is. Yeah, it's July 24th or something like that. Something like that. It maybe a bit earlier, but around there anyway. So they need to be in that game starting, not turning up halfway through the tour or that's it. I can't see any reason why not. I mean, the Sesko deal, the Sesko one, we've been talking with him for how long? We almost tried to sign him last year. Apparently he's stalling on wage demands, or it's being stalled on wage demands, but that's normal. Like, he wants to maximize his earnings. I'm sure the agent wants his biggest cut as possible. I think there's rumors that they're trying to implement a release clause, which if they do, fine. It'll be 110 million, 120 million. And that's not an issue because, right, go and prove yourself that you're a 120 million striker. And if he is, then we've done well out of it. So it just feels a bit odd that this is taking so long. I mean, I think we've got our mind made up. Again, we must have our mind made up. So now it's just all about, how much do we pay? What are the installments? Because I think this is where I was saying how we hamstrung. I think 10, 20 million here could make a difference on what you're saying about the Rodrigo signing. If that's like 80, 90 mil, whether he's worth it or not, but that's what it takes. Having that extra 20 mil in your pocket will make that easier. I think wages are fine. We're going to get rid of a lot of big wages, so I think that's fine. So, and again, who knows? These are all rumors. We don't know. So it does feel a bit odd that it's taking so long. It feels like if we really wanted to do it, we could. I think we're just trying to just manage the situation a bit and just maybe, just sort out those finances and away we go. And look, like Leipzig will want to maximise, and that's fine. So it's a game. Everyone's playing a game, and it's a game of chicken. It's just who blinks first, and then eventually, Leipzig will have to buy someone, so they want to get their money. It's not like they can play silly buggers forever, because they need the money, because they haven't got Champions League, so they get the money and they can get their signings in. So on to the next question, and this is from Alistair from the Grove. Do you think there's any chance that Sesko Gyökeres is a smokescreen and we end up signing another number 9 instead?
What are the 9 is that's any decent? There's Haaland. There's I can't. Right, yeah. This is the problem I've got, is like this. Just, I mean, if it is, then the problem is it could very well be Darwin Núñez, right? And nobody wants Darwin Núñez.
I quite like him. It'd be fun for a while.
Is it Scott McTominay? Maybe. I know he's a 10 these days, isn't he? Not a 9. That's a shame.
Well, look, if you're unsure, okay. So the big two potentially is Etitike from Eintracht Frankfurt. So apparently he's got great numbers, but he's more of a wing forward. And, with Gyökeres and Sesko, you know what you're getting. He's more of the same wing forward, and he's going to be expensive. I think it's around 100 million euros is what they're pitching him at. So I think his potential. He's got potential to be a superstar, but is he the right fit for us? Do we want another sort of he seems a bit lightweight, but very tricky sort of player. So again, good player, but all of a sudden you're going for these big guys like Sesko, like Gyökeres, these big units, these like hit the ball bloody hard and take shot after shot, versus someone who's a bit tricky, a bit more creative, a bit more of a wing forward. The one, I'm not sure it's a smokescreen sort of thing, but they're more of a pivot option, is Ollie Watkins. We were thinking about him in the winter. He's Premier League proven, guaranteed goals, guaranteed assists. The only thing is he's 29, 30. He's not exciting. But, if you want someone to come in and score 15 goals a season, set up, do 5 assists at 40 million, okay, fine. We go again in 2 years' time. Saves money, and you get something for a winger for the big. You get the big money for the winger. So
Watkins and Gordon or Rodrigo, right? That's the thing, and it could be the other thing. I don't know about a smokescreen for another player as much as I suppose that there is that question mark of there is probably money for one humongous signing, right? Because there is a need for a couple of multiple tens of £1 million players on top. We know that Zubi's going to be somewhere in the region of 50 odd, right? And there probably is a bit of a question mark there about just how much of an option is there on Rodrigo and Gordon. How realistic are those potential signings? Because they do get mentioned over and over and over, and maybe that is a part of it. Maybe that's the part of the smokescreen, and maybe your man is onto something in the respect to going, maybe they're trying to work out just which one of those players it is, with the potential backup that the 9 doesn't necessarily need to be that guy. So yeah, I can definitely see that part of it. And again, if you gave me a Rodrigo or a Gordon, I really like it. We've said before, we both love Ollie Watkins, right? Yeah. I'd take him for 2 years. It's fine. You spend 30, 40 million, get him for 2 years. He'll pay that money back. He will. I'm not sure whether he'll do it in his third year or whatever, but that's fine.
No, but
you get a couple of years out of him.
Yeah, and I said Premier. Arteta likes Premier League proven players. It's just not exciting. He's not that new shiny thing. And we want that. And I think we would feel very meh about it, which is a bit wrong. And also his age. I think he's one of these ones. He's either a late developer or he hasn't had that hammering at the younger level like other players have. So I think that whole thing is not so much about age, but number of games that you played and the intensity of those games. And I think he's, he said was it Exeter he came from, and then then Brentford and so on. So I think I think it'll be a good option. I just think people will be very nonplussed about it, and also if you see Gyökeres or Sesko go off and be one of the best number 9s in the world, and Gyökeres smashes in for Man United, you start to feel a bit that's there. So it's a
but
tricky
again,
one.
Your if is you then get potentially the solution to the left side for years to come as well, right? And not to say that it's a massive product, but as much as they are level changing potential signings, I think there. I know not everybody thinks of Anthony Gordon quite as well as I do. I didn't always, but my God, I think he's absolutely a stunning footballer. It would be fantastic for us. And Rodrigo about the same as well. So it just, I don't know. I quite like the idea of that, but that's a greediness almost of going. We get 2 fantastic attacking talents.
I'd like Sesko and Rodrigo, but that may be tricky. And this one, I think Rodrigo's the one that runs, but this is where we definitely need. This is the tricky one, because we do need someone on the left, preferably someone who can play left and right. So this is like that question. It's like the Isaac question. Do you wait all summer for Isaac and not get him, or do you go and get a centre forward earlier? A bit like, do you wait all summer to try and get Rodrigo, who's seamlessly potentially surplus to requirements at Real? He's not been getting off the bench in the Club World Cup games. He has to have a chat with Alonso first, and I don't know, is he going to be another saga? But it's a World Cup year, so what's Rodrigo wanting to do? He comes in, he can play left, he can play right, he can play down the middle. So are we saving funds for him? It's a tough. I think Anthony Gordon would be very expensive. He's got Champions League with Newcastle. I can't see that one happening. But Rodrigo, we need someone on the left hand side. either as good as Martinelli or better to give us the additional.
I think both those players are better. Is the thing. Okay. I think both of them are undeniably better. I like Gabby, and I think he had a really strong second half of the season. But I've said for a long while, I think that's one of the positions where we could get far more productivity and consistency than Gabby has ever managed to show for a whole season at a time in a really key part of the team.
Imagine him being an option. So rather than being the starter, imagine him being the option. I'm less harsh on him. I think he gets maybe unfairly criticised. Again, a lot of his numbers stack up quite highly. Yes, he may have dropped off from that season 2 years ago where he really shone, but I think actually he's a lot better. Underlying is a lot better than what people give him credit for.
I think he's a solid A-grade Premier League player. Yeah. I just don't think he's world class, and I think the other two are world class. In the echelon of left wingers in the world at the moment, those two are within maybe your best 5 or 6. They're not far off, honestly. No. But I'm a big fan of both those players.
But do you wait for them, or do you potentially get Semenyo earlier, who can play left and right? I think he's AFCON related, so that could be an interesting interesting point to consider. So again, the Rodrigo saga, it's a tough one. I'd like to wait for him, but only if we've definitely got something that we can pivot to if it definitely doesn't happen.
It is tough, and especially I think the Gordon one feels like it would be there's either a deal to be done or there's not a deal to be done. Right? That's a pretty simple one, which is can you get Anthony Gordon to say I want to leave Newcastle or go to Arsenal because I like what they're doing at Arsenal, and that's that. Right? That's the only way that you get that one off the ground. The Rodrigo one's the harder one because that's the one that we've seen play out with Real before. It's the way that we did Ozil. It's the massive club player that's not working out, new managers in, loads of things going on, and ultimately those kind of things just has waiting for deadline day and whether the player is anxious in the final week of the deadline week or not. Right? That's got that written all over it. It seems to be the same situation that those players move in time after time after time, and. So that's almost a force rate wait. I think you just don't see those deals happen early on in the transfer window. And probably the other thing as well with Real is I think they're not one of the clubs that you are going to hash out a deal to pay them over a long period of time on either. You're not going to work out. So if you have gone and spent, shot your load on spending on giving Sporting or Leipzig more of the money up front than you'd necessarily have liked to, then you're not going to get structured deals over 3 years for an extra 5 million for a Rodrigo, right? That's just not the way that Real Madrid do their business at all either. It would be. It's an interesting one. I don't know whether there is a tangible question there of what's the actual tax for them to go with. I think they just get themselves to a point in time where they've got a bunch of deals that are lined up. There's paperwork ready to print, ready to be signed as and when needed, and ultimately they try and manage those baskets somewhat. They don't get usurped by any other team for those guys, and they don't lose. And I think this is probably the bigger thing about the waiting. I think if you wait too long, what you end up doing is that you lose all of your secondary targets, right?
Yeah,
it's all those guys that you would otherwise have gone to. It's and we've already seen some of those go. Your Brian and Buermos and various other chaps of that nature. There's a bunch of them that have disappeared, and we'll see. But that it is a concern if they hold on too long for the striker for sure. But having said that, it does seem like Sesko and Gyökeres, Gyökeres, the only other team that gets mentioned for him is United. Yeah. And it does seem like he does have an ounce of sense and wants to stay as far away from that as possible.
Well, with that, that's why I say if we were so certain, okay, there's playing them off and doing all this and waiting, but at some point bite the bullet. If we really are uncertain, go for Watkins, get the cheaper deal, get your money on the winger and go again in 2 years, because there's not exactly a huge amount of centre forwards out there. So
I think there's a pressure of Watkins though that you then have to add something else as well.
Yeah, well, no, that's the thing. Yeah, the thing with Rodrigo, we want to hope for another Martin Odegaard stroke Mesut Ozil situation where they just became surplus to requirements. So even though, great players, they just thought, well, I'm going to be on the bench here. I'm not going to be playing much. So we just need to potentially hope that that's the similar sort of situation, because they've brought in a guy from Argentina. They've got the Arda Güler, who seems to be playing well. So they've got a number of people. He's not playing in his favourite position because of Mbappe. So we just got to hope that, that all the stuff around, he wants to stay, and we like him, is just the usual. We have to say that, otherwise the fans are going to get well pissed off, and we're going to bring down his price. So we'll see. Look, I think that one's going to run. The centre forwards. Well, here we go. Look, I've got a couple more on the centre forwards. Matt Isley from the Grove. Unpopular opinion: Mourinho will start up front versus Man United.
I mean, might as well. What's the arm? It's only United.
I mean, that is some real doomsday scenario shit. That is. I mean, that means that is like Havertz has had a setback. He should be back. Trossard, if he's playing, but then something's happened with him, and it means something seriously gone wrong in the transfer window. So I really hope, for our sakes, that as much as I love him to be there, it's no reflection on Mourinho. It just means a load of shit has gone wrong during the summer. That's what that means. So, and just another one for my running buddy and Sunderland fan, Andy Yunuzis. They kept on taking the piss at me last year about Vardy and Wood, saying had we had them, we would have won the league. So, would you take Vardy, Wood, or stick with the strikers that we've got?
Oh, what? I mean, I think I would take Chris Wood. Why wouldn't you have a Chris Wood off the bench? You'd never, ever, ever, ever want to see him start. But God knows how many games that we've been in where I'm just like, I fucking love a Chris Wood right now.
Yeah, it could be a pound shop. Well, I'd say a pound shop. He's more older than the other ones, but he could be just a second tier Cesco Goicoechea basically. At the end of the day, hits the ball hard.
He can't be an alternative to anyone else. This is he is an ancillary part of this team, right? This is there is a no to. But no, I think as would I take him at the Arsenal? Fucking too right, yeah. I absolutely love that he's this sort of monstrous, scores goals wherever he goes. I quite like his absolute intense lack of assists and absolute dog shit stats at everything else he does in the game, because he just has this thing about him of like, I mean, it's you want to just bring him on for 10 minutes every game, don't you? Even the games when you're winning, just stick him on 10 minutes. Just say to him like, look, come here. You will never start for us, but you will play 10 to 15 minutes of every single match for the Arsenal until you retire, basically. We'll just keep throwing you on.
Maybe. I don't know. I might go with the no striker option, but there we go. There we go. It was just a running joke every week. Oh, you'd have won that game had you had Vardy or Wood. Idiots. Well, he's a Sunderland fan, so his season's going to be a bit disappointing next year. Okay, what else is going on? So we talked about Schrodinger's Zubimendi, who's both simultaneously an Arsenal player and not an Arsenal player at the same time. I think he was at the club this weekend, most probably doing all the announcement stuff, while still not being announced. But I think we can all safely say he's our player.
I think you missed a trick there. It should have been Schrodinger's Basque.
Well, there we go. But anyway, moving on to midfielders from a certain Moz, a very occasional podcaster. Hello, Moz. How you doing? Forget Cesco or Goicoechea. What's your thoughts on letting Partey go this summer on a free? Surely one season with Zubi is wise, so he can bed in.
There's so many reasons that I don't want to go into here about why I want to see Thomas Partey go, but all the off-field stuff. And also, to be honest, I actually think there's a real risk from a playing point of view as well. I'm really sorry. I had to laugh there because Tabs, I'm not sure what he did to himself, but there was a real worried look on his face whilst something was closing up.
My Italian hands, even though I wasn't talking, knocked my microphone over. So sorry. I was talking whilst I was simultaneously talking with my hands whilst not talking. So there we go. Right. Anyway, you were saying
I think there's a real risk in extending a player off the back of his one season where he's managed to meet the expectations that we've actually had of him, and I think that's the reality for me. He has never, in his Arsenal career to date, met the expectations that were set for him at the start of the season. Now, there are mitigating factors for that. There's been injuries, there's been all sorts of stuff. But ultimately, he has never managed to do it until last season, where he exceeded those expectations. If you extend him on that basis, if you were looking at it purely playing wise and there is nothing that's going on off field, I still expect that's a 1 year deal that you offer the guy. And I have a suspicion that the reason that nothing's been signed as yet is because if there is anything on the table, then it is for a 1 year deal, and he's looking for more security than that. And we'll see how that goes. I would say, remember, we've got Mikel Merino back as a midfielder next season, who we didn't have as a midfielder for half of last year because he was so preoccupied with being a number 9. A striker also means that Kai Havertz gets to drop back into midfield a bit more as well. That means that you do free up being able to play Declan Rice back at 6 again, as should you so need, or should you feel that the game warrants it. You've got Zubi, obviously, as the new lad, and then you've got, Merino is very much one of those kind of 6.5, 8 minus 2. I don't know how you want to put it.
I know you.
But he's that sort of player, right? And then you've also got the potential that we might have a little bit more availability at the fullback position to allow MLS to be able to step into midfield as well. There's a lot of really good operators there, providing the Zubimendi deal happens. And I personally don't think another year with Thomas Partey, even aside from everything else, is absolutely necessary. If it weren't for everything else, then I'd probably welcome a 1 year extension.
Yeah, I just think it's time to move on. I think sometimes you just got to move on so you can start the next phase, the next team that's coming, and just having him there. If you ignore the off field, yeah. I just think. Look, I mean, for me, for the yellow versus Madrid alone, goodbye, thank you very much. But yes, useful in midfield. Yes, useful as a right back option. So yeah, he did, and he had a great early season, but he's aging out. His his latter part of the season actually wasn't that great, and he was losing impact. There's AFCON as well, so it's just time to move on. I think there's other options. I think what you're better off doing is, again, going to the market, finding an opportunity. We've been linked with this young midfielder from Sevilla, Agume, who's apparently a good development, good squad option. And hey, look, we can do a deal swap. Sambi was at Sevilla last year, wasn't he? So we swap them out. So you have Sambi, we get Agume, plus some beans maybe, But and then we could maybe do some of these PSR shenanigans like Liverpool are doing with Leverkusen, where they both pay over the odds for Wirtz and is it Konsa? Not Konsa. With the Konsa, I think the one going to Leverkusen. Bank some nice big fat profits, and away you go. So yeah, I just think time to move on. He's done his bit. There's other stuff going around in it, and I just think it just wouldn't be good for multiple reasons. And I think there's plenty of opportunities elsewhere to provide cover. Other news, I think Jarrell Hato, 19-year-old left centre back, who, looking at him, he's already played 100 games. For Ajax. I think he's captained Ajax and stuff like that. So,
yeah.
He's a left back, left centre back. So it seems a really good prospect. So I'm not denying he's a good player, and there's nothing wrong with stacking up on lots of good young players. Chelsea are interested, surprisingly. But I don't know. I think we need a right footer more than a left footer. I don't know. How would you feel about getting someone like that? Given what we've got.
So I think just because I've seen him play a bit and I really liked him, it's one of those where he's really hard to deny the upside, right? So yeah, I mean, I like the idea, but it really doesn't feel like a priority, does it? So
no.
It's sort of exciting for the player, and absolutely not at all excited for what the immediate augmentation of the squad necessarily is.
I think you'd have to get rid. I think you'd have to sell Kivior. I don't think you could have both in the squad.
I think maybe the Italian stallion bolts back overseas again.
Oh, you think we might sell Calafiori?
I don't think we might at all, but I think it's one of those things where I would expect in the long term that might well be the casualty, in the respect that and maybe you see what happens fitness wise with Calafiori as he carries on. It's still my major concern over him. It's the fact that it wasn't. It's the fact that it was a concern before he signed, and it's been a concern in his first season. Having said that, so yeah. I don't know. Joao Hato would have been a player, I think, a year or two ago that I was when we were first linked with him, super excited for.
Yeah,
really excited
years,
for.
Haven't we?
It's just at this point it feels less exciting because we've got an MLS and we've got a Calafiori, and you've also got the where does Timber go when White comes back, and we've seen Timber at left back before. So it doesn't feel at all an exciting prospect.
No, yeah, it'll be interesting to see if it happens. I don't think so. It just seems an odd fit, but we've been known to buy odd fit players before. So
it feels like if it were to happen, it's one of those market capitalisation things where nobody else is looking to sign him this year, and you think that everybody's going to be looking to sign him the next, right? And maybe you even Saliba him and send him off for a year.
Well, I was just about to say you loan him back out, sort of thing. Yeah. That is sensible. So then you get a year of Calafiori, see how he pans out. Kivior, if he stays for one more year, he will go next year. Unless he really is happy being that backup. So we'll see. So we'll see what happens on that one. What else? We were sort of linked with Noni Madueke from Chelsea, so that fits the Chelsea reject MO that Arsenal seem to hang on to.
Really like him. I really like him. Yeah. I've really liked him, and I liked him when he came and played against us. But I also went for PSV days. But also have really liked him in a Chelsea shirt. I think. Well, I mean, I say that I don't like any fucker in a Chelsea shirt.
No, of course.
But and I include family, friends, and relatives in that as well. But I like what he does. I think he's actually a super talented player, and I think for the right price, he could be somebody that would be an interesting addition. Having said that, I don't know that he's kind of clear of anybody that we've got at the moment in any respect. So he's a squad guy, right? So he becomes more of a, if somebody else shifts on, then maybe you see a Noni Madueke come in for me. So yeah, it's an interesting rumour, that one, but
yeah, I don't know. Yeah, you're right. I think the fact that he's a floor raiser rather than a ceiling raiser, and we've got to be starting looking at ceiling raisers, not cheap. Either ceiling raisers or good young prospects, and he's sort of I'm sure he's only about 22, 23 or whatever, but yeah, you're looking at 19, 20-year-olds type stuff. So talking to young prospects, I think MLS's contract is done, or is, I think Charles Watt's reporting that it's been done, and I think Nwaneri's coming soon. So again, not only is this summer about buying and selling, it's locking down some really important names. So we've got Gabriel sorted, Saka seems to be in the pipeline. We've got MLS, Nwaneri. I'm sure Saliba will sort of follow suit if he sees everyone else plus what we buy. So these are really important things to also get done and not forget and not take it for granted, because they can be very easily poached or see what else is out there. So I think I think that's really nice to see. And in terms of players leaving, Zinni to Fulham and AC Milan, around 12 million seems to be talked. Apparently Zinchenko wants to stick around London, so maybe Fulham's a good option. AC Milan, Champions League. I think they Champions League? Maybe not. I don't know. But anyway, just could be good. But I think wages are the issue because he's 200 plus. And I think everyone forgets 100 grand is still a massive wage for 90% of clubs in Europe. So it's getting someone like him into your clubs.
It's always the risk with the players, isn't it? These days, it's to trying to get rid of them. The only place you can get them to is either the Middle East or Turkey, and then with those, they've all just got room for a couple of these marquee signings, and that's about it. So you've got a limited number of slots to be able to send them out to if they don't work out, right? Sitting at Fulham, though, I love the idea. It's just one of those lovely little Arsenal retirement homes, isn't it?
Well, exactly, and apparently they want Nelson as well. They want to keep Nelson as well, which he's obviously impressed. So again, we could get, I don't know, 20 million for the two. Take them. See you later. We'll take that 25 for the two.
I love that relationship down there. They've been taking geezers for ages. Right way back to Ian Selly and Louis Beaumorte, as mentioned earlier. They just they love a former Gooner down the gaff, don't they?
Yeah. You're right. Actually, think about it. With Leno there and ESR and. I've forgotten the guy who went to Everton. What's his name?
Steve Hughes?
No. Iwobi. Sorry, Iwobi.
Oh, right. Sorry. I'm thinking completely wrong decade there.
Yeah. Yeah, not quite. And then the only other one was Martinelli to Bayern, but apparently the guy reporting it was linking every other winger available to Bayern. So I'm not really worried about that, and to be honest, I think
take it if they want a swap deal with Elise.
Well, yes, exactly, but yeah, I don't think that's going to happen. Okay, here you go. Would you take Kane for a year?
Would I take him for a year? Fuck yeah. I'll Pat Jennings him. Right, man. There's this, there's history there doing it, and good God, if he came over and he won something with us, just imagine
that would be the only
just
reason to have
imagine it. Double. Sol Campbell's won the double. Remains one of my greatest ever Arsenal songs. Can you imagine what it'd be like with Harry Kane?
That would be so funny. That would be.
Harry Kane had to leave the lane to come and win a title. There's so many ways that you could do it, but yeah, I honestly think it'd be the ultimate wind up. I think we'd have to get them led by donkeys signs that they get going about the gaff with the pictures of politicians and stuff and big slogans. Christ, if he came over and won some, you'd just have to get his face everywhere, wouldn't you? You just have to. I'd probably go and buy a car myself and just slam a board on the side of it and just go around Edmonton.
There you go. Shock swap deal with Bayern. Martinelli out, and in comes Harry Kane and wins the title for the Gunners. There we go. I'll take it. If it means us winning a title, I'll take it. Sorry, sorry, Gabby.
I'll tell you what, though, if we signed him and we didn't win a title, fucking hell, that'd be awful, wouldn't it? It'd be terrible. It'd be really bad. It'd be so bad.
I think everyone will be sacked. Everyone will be sacked.
It's not worth thinking about, is it? It's not worth thinking about at all.
Oh my God, I could just imagine the head loss. So anyway, moving on from transfers, and before we get some Q&A, Carlos Cuesta, young 29 coach with Arsenal, he's gone to manage a Serie A club in Parma at age 29, which is insane. He's obviously a talent and good on him. Good luck to him. But I don't know. Do you think this is any issue with it? Good thing, bad thing, an issue? Just what happens when you've got talent in the club?
Talented guys going to get new jobs, right? It's positive attrition. That's the way that you'd see it in the workplace for me. And also, key thing is staffs have to switch up, right? And that's the way of it. You look at Fergie, he went through a whole bunch of assistants because they kept on going off, getting jobs and then failing at those jobs. And whether that be Brian, what's his chops that I can't remember the second name of now, or Steve McLaren or Mike Phelan, or the various different ones that he went through over the years. They were all. Why are you holding your?
No, because I'm trying to remember Brian's surname. He used to actually play for Man United. Brian Kidd. There you go. He used to play
Brian
for Man
Kidd.
United.
That's the one. Yeah. Brian Kidd, Steve. He had loads, and there was one bit before Brian Kidd. He had the geezer who went to Rangers as well. The Archie Knox. He had Walter Smith down there for a season. He had so many assistant managers, and at the time, only really new assistant managers, coaching staff. Otherwise, I think there was a whole bunch went off to jobs as well. So. These things happen, and if you're going to have talented guys around you, then they are going to end up going and getting better jobs. And actually, it's a pretty good indicator that you've got a team that you've got somebody that's able to spot talent and bring it in the first place, right? What you don't really want to see is a Nicholas Jova goes to, and it's not about Nicholas Jova's importance on his own or anything, but you don't want him going off to another team to be their set piece coach, and that's that. You want to see that progression. You want to see that it's positive attrition. You don't necessarily want to see that it's guys going off to be a part of a team that they would rather be a part of than the Arsenal. You know, and that's not what this is. He's got a fantastic opportunity, and good luck to him. And you know, good luck to Parma. I've got a massive soft spot for them due to the old '90s team and their and the team that we beat, and they're fantastic fucking kits. So you know, I really hope that he's a big part of trying to turn that club around, because they've been in the doldrums for a while.
Well, they were, I think they administration and they had to be in Serie C and Serie B and now Serie A. No, I love that team. You know, they had Buffon at one point. You know, they had Brolin,
Tino Asprilla, mate.
Tino Asprilla, Gianfranco Zola. You know, they were when Football Italia was at its peak. You know, with James Richards and stuff, they were one of the teams there, along with Sampdoria, along with the big wigs. You know, but Sampdoria and Parma were those sort of, and Fiorentina were those sort of three non so trendy, non like fashionable clubs or the big names. They were like the ones that had some good players in them and good teams. And actually, did they win the Scudetto? I think they might have done.
No, Parma never won the Scudetto.
Did they not? But I think they might have got close. With
they had a season where they looked really close. They ran. I think it was the year that Lazio got all their money, and they had Amoroso and at the time they still had a young Cannavaro at the back. And then unfortunately they and Lilian Thuram was there. I mean, that was a hell of a back line. Thuram, Cannavaro, and Buffon in there, but unfortunately they fell short. I was a massive fan. That particular year was when they had the white and the blue stripes going across. Oh my God, it might have been the greatest football kit ever made.
Love it. I mean, look, for me, I think it's an opportunity, as you're saying, Arteta getting some new blood into the coaching staff, new ideas, new personality. You know, obviously it's a loss, but I think it's a chance to change, because something change is good. I mean, we all know Cuesta from like the Amazon documentary. He was a one-to-one, worked with the players. He was of a similar age, seemed to connect with them. So I think it's one of these things. It happens. So we just replace him and we move on. So there we go. Right. So on
29 years of age, mind. Like fair. I mean, fair enough, but also, my God. 29 years of age.
I know, managing a Serie A club.
He'd be one of the young. He'd be one of the younger geezers in the Grove, wouldn't he? Like, it's mad.
Yeah, well,
fair play.
Exactly. So let's hope he's not a complete cunt like what's his name at Brighton of the similar age. So he's 30 odd, isn't he? And I don't think he will be. He comes across as a nicer guy. Right. So we have some other questions to get through. This is from Steph from the North Bank, an Arsenal podcast, friend of the pod as well, someone I sort of meet up before games and chat with online. And his question is, which Arsenal trope, bottlers, set piece FC or another from rivals most annoys you, or which one do you actually kind of find quite funny? Is there anything out there that grinds your gears or you find funny that we seem to get labelled with?
Do you know? I think maybe it's the bottlers. I tend to agree with most of them, to be honest. I think because you got to have some tropes, ain't you? You got to have some I mean, I've always enjoyed that podcast that calls itself Latte Firm, because it was sort of taking the mick out of the fact we were always seen as being a bit, we were, and we've always been the saftest bunch of bastards in London, really, to be honest. Like, best team, but a little bit saft. Most likely to turn up at the game in a trilby, that sort of crowd. You know what I mean? But no, I think maybe the one that has annoyed me in the last few seasons, definitely the calls of bottler when they came, and that was very specifically when they came in those the season before last, because that felt that probably did feel at the time somewhat that there was a huge difference between the acknowledgement from our end of kind of what had gone into that season, the success that it had been in certain respects, and the difficulties that we faced, and the juggernaut that City became, and then the way that the likes of Liverpool fans in particular at the time seemed to absolutely rejoice in calling us bottlers. And I think in particular as well the fact that they were calling us bottlers, and then City were going on to win the league, and they were almost rejoicing somewhat that City were winning the league again, and that was It just felt like a really bizarre thing for a load of Liverpool and United fans in the main to be doing. So that's probably the one, but it's probably more the stuff that went around it at the same time. What about yourself?
Well, actually, the one that also a couple of people commented on Bluesky. So Mr. C the Gooner at Mr. C the Gooner.bsky.social and Holly, who also is part of the North Bank podcast crew. They came in with the same old Arsenal always cheating, especially when one of our players has clearly been fouled or when we've clearly done absolutely nothing wrong. And yeah, that's the one that actually just winds me up because and great they do it because it winds us up because I don't mind if we get it done for cheating, but when it's clearly like someone's been absolutely poleaxed and there's blood gushing out from their head and someone's going, oh, same old Arsenal always cheating. Yeah, it's like, it's like, come on.
Yeah, I can get that. Admittedly, I sort of liked it when we were dirty bastards. To be honest, that's the Arsenal heritage I really enjoy.
Well, I don't mind if it is true. That's the thing. It's the one when it's actually completely like it's like Eduardo. Oh, it's like like a Ramsey. He's cheating because he's had his leg broken in two. That sort of shit. So I'm with them on those ones. But yeah, if we were cheating, yeah, good, fine, fuck you. Yeah, it doesn't bother me because just as long as we can get away with it. Some of this dark art. Here we go. Here's another. These dark arts FC. Like again, when we do stuff that everyone else does, but we get called out for it, it's like, oh yeah, Again, it's maybe.
I'm sort of somewhat proud of that one though, because we moaned for ages that we weren't doing it right, and then we did celebrate it when we had a couple of guys who came in with a little bit of nous and that weren't idiots and that would go, hang on a minute, do you reckon I should probably take that geezer down at this stage because he is through on goal, as opposed to the muppets that we had for quite some time who didn't do so. So. No, I'm quite proud of that one. I'll take it all day long.
No, again, it's a good one. I don't mind it when it's justified, but when it just gets into the psyche of everyone else, and then it's like complete bollocks because we're not the only one. Everyone does it. It's called playing smart. It's game management, whatever you want to call it. So there we go. Right, on to the next one. So this is another one from my running buddy and relegation fodder fan, Andy and Sunderland. Here's a good one. Mick Arteta gets taken ill and can't fulfill his duties for the upcoming season. You can choose between Ange or Jose. And that's Mourinho. Who gets the job?
Oh, Jesus Christ, that's ours.
No, he's not one of them. Ange or Jose.
Shit, man. This is like thinking about the prospect of Donald Trump getting in, and would you rather he stayed in power or would you rather have JD Vance, right? Do you know? I think I'm going to go for Jose. To be honest, I think Jose is probably the man because he's just. At least, you give him that back four. I think he actually probably would go and win some stuff with him, in fairness. I mean, Christ on a bike. He knows what to do with a decent back four.
Fair enough. In the interest of difference, I'm going to go with Ange and actually thought about it. I think it'll be more entertaining. We all hate Jose. So actually having to like someone that you hate, and we've hated him for years and who he is and his smugness and having to get behind that. No, whereas at least Ange, I don't think anyone minded Ange. It's just the fact he's the manager of Tottenham. So it's a bit like Frank now. I think everyone likes Thomas Frank. The only issue is he's now manager of Tottenham, so we don't like him. But you take him out of Tottenham, you don't mind him. You take Ange out of Tottenham, you take out the Forest manager out of Tottenham, we don't mind them. But it's only when they're actually in the job. And Ange will be a bit fun. And actually, he can be the only reason Tottenham actually won that trophy in the end. He decided to be pragmatic. They weren't doing that fucking gung-ho shit at the end of the season when there was actually a trophy on the line. So
that's because of the cup, mate. That's all he kept saying. But I would send this back to you, right? So very specifically, Jose Mourinho's first season is always great wherever he goes, and he has no problem with first seasons because it's all about going in, setting a culture, and going and winning things, right? Arteta's only ill for a year as well. He can come back, right? He's only here as a caretaker, right? Ange literally says, I don't win anything until I always win something in my second season, mate. So, given you've given him a year,
Good point.
The difference we've made there is I've picked the geezer who's going to come and win the league. You've picked the geezer that's going to point the next season. So I think there's some real fallibility in your plan there, mate. So.
As I said, I was doing it for the interest of providing an alternative view. I would have personally, if I was going first, gone for Jose, despite finding him a despicable human being. But there we go.
That's all right. I mean, if you'd have done that, if you'd have gone first and gone for Jose, I'd have lamented that, told you were a despicable human being for picking and gone with Ange. So, it's what it is, isn't it?
There we go. Right. And then another one from Moz. This one is now into our silly section. How many men do you think it would take to beat a silverback gorilla? If you want to make it Arsenal related,
at what though? At what though? He hasn't. He hasn't stated it. He hasn't stated what.
Very good. You choose to answer the question however you see fit.
All right. Well,
he obviously means in a fight. But
I'm going to say 17, but I'm not going to tell you what sport that is. So back to Moz, you can work out which one of those it is.
Okay, so I couldn't be bothered thinking about it, so I did the next best thing, which is who does most of my thinking for me. So I asked Copilot the answer, and they said, right. Copilot said, let's break it down. Well, they said some other shit beforehand, but I deleted that. They said, let's break it down. A male silverback gorilla can weigh over 180 kg, 400 pounds. They can bench press more than 800 kg, estimated. I was just about to say...
do they bench press? Yeah, that's outstanding.
That's why they said
outstanding.
That's why they said estimated. I was just imagining a gorilla during his workout, just wiping his brow with a towel afterwards. And they can generate bite forces that rival a lion's. They've got absurd upper body strength, immense agility, and a temper to match if provoked. So if we're talking about unarmed, average men, it would take a frankly shocking number. So actually, your answer was very close. It goes on to say maybe 15 to 20 trained fighters, and even then with serious risk. But most scenarios like this are more about imagination than realism, blah, 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 blah. And if you were to do this, you'd be in serious danger, so don't try it. So apparently, according to Copilot, 15 to 20 trained fighters might have a chance, but most probably not. So,
I mean, I will say, whilst I said 17, it could also be, because during the description there, some of the superlatives that have been thrown out around the aggression, the strength, and so on, did make me think of Manu Petit. So I will actually revise my answer and say 17 men or one number 17, as was Manu Petit.
With or without the ponytail? So they could grab the ponytail, and that's a disadvantage.
Oh, mate, no, he was way better with the ponytail. Yeah. And it just looked him dead in the eyes with that deathly stare that he showed off when he was in that episode of The Bill. And he'll just, he'll have him, mate.
There are so many references here that people won't get, but there we go. I'm enjoying it. Okay, right. So on to the final two questions. The final actual question is from Normie, but before we get to that, I have Tabs from at the Grove AFC. Have one final question about Normie. Will he ever get a season ticket?
Absolutely not.
The reason is he's been on about 270 in the queue now for the past 3 seasons and still no joy. Darren on X keeps teasing him, not personally, but we keep posting the tweets about updates about some movement, and it always seems to be touch and go. So yeah, unfortunately, sorry Norman, you're just gonna have to stay on the TX for quite a while. But actually, joking aside, there's very little natural churn. There's a bit of people losing season tickets due to the use it or lose it role. But how do people, even in the top 200, 300, 400, actually get to get a season ticket? I mean, even club level has like a 3-year whatever waiting list, and that's cloaked in secrecy. I don't know. How do we address this sort of issue? Because it is
ritualistic slaughter. Something approaching the Hunger Games. I think we need to do that would help.
Fair enough. So not stadium expansion then, or
No, we just would. The bit outside the stadium where the cannon is, and there's the guy selling the fanzine, and the bloke from like the bloke from, I can't remember which nation it is, but the something gunner that's always having a bit of a dance and stuff and got his boombox. Just down there, basically, we'll just start slaughtering people. About, I reckon, if we do 5 or 6 a game of season tickets, obviously, like we can't be doing it to like those that have got a ticket on the exchange. That would be a bit too harsh. So you have to confirmed ST holders, and maybe we could have some filtration in there. We'd like do the over 50s or something like that, And
great, thank you.
And I mean, we do probably need some JGs as well, because you need some churn on that front as well. So just put them out, put them in that bit, few heads chopped off, and pray to the gods of football, and we'll start getting some VAR decisions. It'll be lovely.
There you go, Normie. That's how you get your season ticket. Good luck with that one. Okay.
Aside from that, I don't see. I mean, the problem is the actual true answer for season ticket churn is really simple. It's the reason that we had reasonable churn for a bunch of years, and that is we need football. We need the football to regress, and we need to not see enough hope in sight, and we need a malaise and a lack of connection to the team, because that is what stops people going to football clubs.
And over multiple seasons, because even if it's just one,
absolutely,
real dip.
It took a bunch of seasons coming forth for us to start seeing some serious work on that season ticket waiting list the first time around. So that's how it happens, and nobody wants to see that. So it is what it is.
So normally it seems like the ritualistic slaughter is the more likely option than us getting bad. So there we go. Anyway, especially under Arteta, can't see it happening. Right. Anyway, in true normie fashion, as he does. So, would you rather fight one horse-sized duck or 100 duck-sized horses? And this is bare knuckles, no weapons. What's your strategy? Who are you picking, and how are you going to beat them?
Ooh. Well, that's an interesting one, isn't it? It's not a bad one, because normally these are a bit more obvious than this. Because I was going to go, well, I'll go for the one that's only got. Yeah, I think I'm gonna have to go for the one that's only got. Oh, mind you, no, ducks can fly. Ducks can fly, can't they? Oh no, that's danger. No, I'm going for the horses, mate.
Yeah, Yeah, so you want 100 duck-sized horses?
100 duck-sized horses, because I can just try and kick them all, because they're tiny then, and they can't fly. Whereas if you go for the horse-sized duck, then that guy's going to be like all over the gaff, isn't he? It's going to be like some Sega Mega Drive boss man, like he's huge and he's flying. Absolutely fuck that. Not having that.
It'll be like fighting Pegasus, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I'm not having that. Not at all. What about you?
I'm going to have to go for the interest of it. I would have done you could just kick them everywhere. So I was going to go for the 100 duck-sized horses. You just kick them about just to get anywhere near you. Okay, they might be a bit nippy, but yeah. And the problem with the horse-sized duck is not only can they fly, the bill, that's a bloody weapon in itself. Imagine a huge bill that big. So that would knock you out in one blow. So I can't argue against that one. It has to be just the little horses. Just you can pick them up by the tail, throw them around, just boot them around. Just so yeah. Even if they attack you in hordes, they could stampede you a bit. But no, I'd imagine I'll take my chances on the 100 versus the.
Where have we got to, mate? Where have we got to?
Well, blame Normie. He's always got a good one like this. That's his fault. All right, to make it Arsenal related, they're all wearing Arsenal shirts. There you go. Okay, I think we are done. An hour and 23 in, and yeah, good. So look, thanks everyone for your questions. Really appreciated it. Some good ones, some less good ones. You know who you are. And yeah. So look, thank you, Jamie, for participating and answering, and well done because you weren't prepared at all, so you did pretty well. So thank you.
Glad to be here, mate.
Good. And look, you can follow us on Threads, Bluesky at the Grove AFC. We've got some more community casts lined up over the summer, so just keep an eye out for those. And if anything happens with Berta and his Apple Pay, then I'm sure we'll jump on and talk about that ad infinitum. So as always, remember to like, subscribe, and give us a rating, whether we deserve it or not. And until the next time, come on, you Gunners.